Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good everything.
Good everything.
Yes.
All right. So today, how to structure a real estate team, part 4, numero 4.
Yeah, we've really been diving deep
Hiring,
into this. Proud of us.
right?
Yeah.
Hiring, training, and managing your buyer agents. I guess it'll be agent first and then agents as we scale here.
Yes. Most agents are going to be interested in the hiring part and like how to recruit and how to attract these people. But just to back up and give you a little reiteration of what we went over previously, you should have a value plan, a proposition in place, i.e., you should have scalable systems to generate you business, lead generation, lead conversion, things of that nature already running in your business, right? Before you do this, you should also have an assistant already hired before you do this. If you don't have market maker, you should have an ISA to help you facilitate the lead generation, delivery, and really, again, the value proposition to the agent before you hire an agent, right? We're going to get into the ads and the way to attract them and some of the things that I've done in the past and actually who to attract. I just want to make sure that you remember you should have a structure in place for this person, just like we covered as far as the assistant is concerned, or the ISA, so that they're not coming in and then you're trying to figure it out and decide what to do, because that's going to cause you a lot of extra time that's wasted, and it's going to be a drag on your production, which means that it's going to cost you a lot of money to not do this work up front. So you should have some scripts in place, right? They should know what to say to the leads, and you should have a little training process in place so that you don't have to do all the work. You might record videos like this, for example. You might record some of your own calls, and you might record some calls from your ISAs. Now, if you're on Market Maker, right, like we record our calls for you, we record your calls for you, so you can just grab those, plug them into a little process. Currently, we've been using something called Trainual, which is pretty cool. It does have a fee to it, so I might not lead with that because it's an expense, and I'm kind of allergic to those. So,
Right.
Even if it's just on a Google Doc or even a 3-ring binder, right, that they can consume this stuff. So again, scripts, right, on how to convert these leads. And then you should also have in place presentations for buyers and presentations for sellers, right? So like a buyer's presentation, a seller's presentation, and these should be straight from your own playbook that you've tested, vetted, they're battle tested, that they work, so that these people can come in, say what you say, get a similar outcome in the process of converting the leads that you're going to be sending them, which is how you build your business and how you make it so that it's systems based instead of people dependent and got scalability to it, right? So
Yep.
That's what we got for that.
And it's funny, we can kind of like stamp this as we scale each next hire, right? Because it's the same foundation, right? Like what is being done, it changes, but the foundation stays the same in terms of you've got to make this stamped and repeatable.
Right.
And I never really understood how much and how important that is until you have a bunch of people that are coming into the same role, and they can be game changers. And Kinder told me one time, A players, B players, C players, in terms of kind of rolling into how to hire, right? And the person you're trying to hire. And it's A players are easy because they, you get them a track to run on, they get and they understand, and then they continue to grow even if you're not pushing them to grow.
Well, my favorite quote, I don't know who it came from, if it was you or somebody else, but B players are who you spend time with that takes away time from your family, something to that effect, right?
Yeah,
because
B players are
you can't make
spend time with instead of your family.
Yeah, you can't make a B player and A player. So let's just roll right into that. Who do you want to hire? Who do you want to attract? What does this person look like? If you don't know, you're not going to have a favorable outcome necessarily there, because you are just going to be winging it. So I'm going to start with, just like we did with the ISAs, you want to have a DISC test, a DISC, right? DISC personality profile test. This person's going to be a salesperson, so you want them to be like a high D or high I, right? And if they're not, I can tell you, if you hire them anyway, they're not going to do very good, because I've done that just because I like the person. And I thought I would outsmart the system. I was like, B's wings are too small for it to fly mathematically, but it doesn't know it till it flies anyway. So like, this person wants to be in real estate. They don't know that they're an S&C. They don't know that they're going to suck at selling. You know what I mean? And this dude was literally a former music teacher, and he just did okay. You know what I mean? He didn't. The irony of that, at the time, my lead generation what do you call it? Like the way that I would divvy them out strategy was even Steven. So I was spending as much money on this guy that was giving me a poor ROI as I was the good ones that were giving me a positive ROI. So don't do that. Want to make sure you attract a high D or high I personality type, and we'll get into how to attract them in a moment. And then the other thing is, you got to decide whether you want to work with new agents or seasoned agents, right? And I think that the preference would be, if you could wave a magic wand, you'd want to attract people who already have production. However, those people that have been in the business for a while, especially if they're not very successful, there's a reason, and they tend to have bad habits, right? And it's really hard to retrain bad habits. I found that new agents were much more favorable to me because they didn't have these bad habits. And what I would tell them to do was how they thought real estate was supposed to be ran. You know what I mean? So like, I'm like, okay, when you meet with a seller, you give this presentation. What you're going to do is you're going to practice this 3 times. You're going to watch this video that I'm going to give you as many times as it takes. And then you're going to give me the presentation. And until it's perfect, you're not going to get a seller lead, right? And it was the same thing with the buyer side leads. You know what I mean? Like until you got it, until it's perfect, because we would bring them in, we would give them a buyer's presentation, sign them up to buyer's agency, get them pre-approved because our mortgage company was in-house, and then go show them a house, right? And back then, especially in a resort market, there's a lot of people that just want to impress their girlfriend. You know what I mean? They're on vacation, like, let's go look at some $1 million homes and
let's go, baby.
Right? Like, they can't buy nothing, right? So you have to be very careful in a market like that. And we were, but that was the process. And until they could do that, right, we would be very, very guarded with the amount of leads that we would give them. And so, having those things in place is really important. And again, I like new agents.
And personally. So this is where outlining what you want is key.
This is just water, by the way.
No, a red Solo cup. So in we're not sponsored by Solo right now, so no, we might need to get on that. Yeah. But with hiring a new person or hiring a high I, a high D, like getting clear on that and not getting over anxious, because guess what? When you're at this point, you got an ISA in place, you got an assistant in place, you're humming along, right? You're starting to get busy. You're starting to feel like this thing's getting a little wompy, like, whoa, like things are really good one day. And then the next day something fell out of contract and the world's falling, payroll's coming up. Like you're into that world right now. And scaling can become even harder if you make your job harder. Right. And so if it's the first person that you meet with and they really want to do it, that doesn't mean that that's going to be a good hire just because they're eager beaver. Like if they're a real high S and they're a long-time agent that's never really had success, you are getting a project on your hand and you might be a fixer, but try your best not to do that, especially with the first one. Make it easy.
I'm a fixer. So like, I'm always trying to like, I know I see more in others than they see in themselves. And I'm like, I can make you successful. And I try, man, and it is exhausting. And so, don't do that. The other thing that you want to be cognizant of is, culture, like in not to discriminate against different ages, but like the age group that you want to have your business kind of be, right? If you can, especially if you're running, high, online lead generation, robust CRM, type of a business, right? Like, is that person going to be able to get in there and do those things? Or are they going to just, really hate it and hate you for it and never fill out the notes and never disposition, the appointment and never give you the feedback loops and, maybe not even respect you. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I'm like overly sensitive of it. And I was very young, right? And so like I had, there wasn't anybody hardly in my organization that was even close to my age until we got rolling. But you want to be aware of that too. The other thing that happens is, as far as attracting agents, a lot of times, like my recruiting strategy was super passive. Like people would just come and talk to me about possibly joining my team because I was a known entity, and they'd be like, "Hey, I've been thinking about getting my real estate license. Would you hire me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Once you get your real estate license, right?" And inevitably that would lead into, "Oh, well, will you sponsor my real estate class?" And the answer was absolutely not. If you're not going to at least take that step and invest in yourself, I'm not going to give you the money. Now, some people would push back. I know that there's brokers and teams that will pay for those things. But if you want to do that, at a minimum, I would make it a reimbursement after they join your organization for a duration of time. Because so many people that had that conversation never took the next step. You know what I mean? And you'd just be wasting money. And you want, like I was joking the other day, the movie Hitch, right? You go 80 and then you wait for them to go 20 for the first kiss. You know what I mean? Like you gotta make them do a little bit of the work there. So do that. I think from there, what you want to do is what we want to do, Jake, is talk about some strategies for attracting agents. And I had happened to have the privilege of going through Recruit Select with John Davis, who was the president of Keller Williams. And I was really just impressed with the level of detail that they went into for how they recruited agents. And I'll give you like a crash course version of that. And then I'll tell you my big takeaway. Now I put a little twist on it with a little type of digital strategy. And so essentially what they would do is they would do kind of old school red book type of lead generation strategies. It'd be like, call the title company, describe the person you're looking for. Do you know anybody that sounds like this? If they say yes, do you mind if I call them and I tell them that you told me about them, right? So a little bit of inference, so you had some familiarity, and then that was the lead gen strategy. And I was like, okay, that sucks. That's like cold calling and door knocking. You know what I mean? But after that was the magic. So they're like, all right, now here's what you do, right? So you go and you meet them, and you try to meet them at a neutral place, right? Like a coffee shop. You try to dress the way that they're going to dress, right? So you're mirroring and modeling, right? And then you get into the conversation of, how's your year going, right? Can you tell me more, right? And what else? And all these great questions to get them to continue to talk to you about their business. And from there, once you identified their problems, then the next step was to pull the tools out of the KW toolbox of how you would fix those. So, oh, you don't have lead generation. Oh, you don't have training. Oh, you don't have this. You don't have that. Right now, great strategy, works well. I think to this day, Keller Williams is probably one of the foremost recruiting real estate brokerages in the industry. However, the tools that they would bust out, in my opinion, were not really very good, right? And so like back then they would give you like a market leader website, right? So, oh, you don't have leads, we give you a market leader website. Like that's ever, I don't know any mega agents who have ever been like, yeah, I'm doing this with my market leader website. I don't even know if they're a company anymore. So no offense. I mean, I'm sure they were great in their day, but it was just not going to cut it. And so my point there is that same strategy when you're meeting with these people still works very well, right? And so what I would do is the same strategy, but I would do a little digital twist. Instead of doing that crappy old school lead generation, what I did was I put together a couple of ads, right? And I bought a couple of domain names, and this worked quite well. I was shocked at how well it worked. And essentially what I would do is we had a bulletin board on our MLS. A lot of MLSs still have bulletin boards where you can share messages back and forth. A lot of MLSs have Facebook groups now where you can post things of this nature. And at a minimum, you could email the list. And let me tell you, I tried a lot of things. I tried running seminars, right? Like I tried running seminars and renting hotel rooms and like giving away laptops for people who would come, and I would get butts in seats, you know what I mean? But nobody, like, it would just be crickets, right? Like nobody would come, nobody would convert, nobody would, you know what I mean? Like they just come to watch the Mike show and maybe win a laptop. So don't do that unless you know somebody that's doing it well and they teach you how to do it better than I did, because I sucked at it. But what I did instead was I would run these little ads, right? And I would pull up a chunk of customers out of my database, like 27 buyers looking to buy in the next 3 months, right? Because I'd have them all divvied up by 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Need a strong buyer's agent to refer them to. Visit MikeOtoTeamReferrals.com. And then I also split tested with visit MikeOtoTeamCareers.com, right? Because I was like, well, referrals, they think I'm going to give them a referral. Careers, maybe it's a little more forthright. Like they're going to be like, oh, this dude's going to try to recruit me. Didn't make a difference. Like they still filled out the form. And I was shocked the level of agents. Some of them were broker owners that were really successful, right? I'm like, oh, I'm not giving you any of these leads. But what I would do is I would say, hey, you know what I mean? Like I received your, email and form submission, however I put it at the time, I don't recall specifically, but, your request, right? I received your request, inquiring about the 12 buyers or 27 buyers, right? Just wanted to make time to sit down with you and talk about it. When would be a good time for us to get together? And now I'm lazy, so I didn't do the coffee shop thing. I would like come to my office, you know what I mean? Because we had a nice office. It was impressive. And I wanted to show them that too. So they get in there and I'd be like, well, how's your year going? They'd be like, oh, it's a little slow. Well, hell yeah, that's why you're here, right? Like that's why you're sitting in front of me.
I know.
So let's talk about that, right? And so then I'd walk them through. I'd be like, well, here's our problem. Like we have the exact opposite problem. We have too many customers. We can't service them all, and I need help, right? And so, what's your current brokerage doing to facilitate you generating business? How many leads do they give you now? Oh, they don't give you any? Really? How do they expect you to be successful? Like, what are they doing to make you money? Well, they're not doing anything. Well, that's just crazy, right? Like, now you can empathize with them, and you can really wrench on that pain, right? And the process for this is, you know, antagonize the pain, right? And then provide the solution. And so, I would go down that path, and I would say, look, if you would like to have something like this on a consistent basis without a referral fee attached to it, right? Here's how our system works. Here's how our business works. By the way, here's all the other benefits of it. And this is what your life would look like on a consistent basis, right? And so I had some of them, like, I remember one person in particular, her brother was a broker. She was like, it would just devastate him. I was like, but you still want to do it, don't you? She's like, yes, I really do. I really do. And I was like, well, just talk to him about it. I didn't get her, right? Full disclosure. But I did hire, I can't remember the exact number. I would say like 10 or 12 in a very short period of time. Because what I was doing is I was rebuilding my team after the recession. And I was just like, let's just pile them on and see what sticks. You know what I mean? And so I just kept having them come. I remember this one gal I got, she was real quirky. And I was sitting with her to do a role play for script training. And I was like, let's role play. And she was like, how's your wife going to feel about that? And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, never heard that one before. Of course, I was newly married. But anyway, this process works well. And so I would invite you to test this process. And, it's not fancy. The form doesn't have to be fancy, right? Name, email, phone number, right? The same headline as you used in the copy, right? 27 buyers need strong buyers agents to refer them to. Works with sellers agents as well. And that's it. Like, all you're trying to do is get them to respond to you so you can have a conversation. And when you have that conversation, then you're trying to uncover the pain, exacerbate the pain, and then provide the solution. And exacerbating the pain is where they're currently at. Another quick tip that I learned there was agents consider a move every 3 to 6 months, right? Or every quarter, sorry. Every quarter, every 3 months, they're considering a move. Their broker pisses them off, coworker pisses them off, something happens. Maybe a deal falls apart, right? And they're like, man, I need a different gig. I need to go look around and see what else is out there for me. And so, you weren't their first choice. You just want to be their next choice. And even if you don't recruit them right then, I tend to close hard. Again, I think it's the laziness in me. Like, I just want to kind of hurry up and get it over with, like either join or get out of my way so I can get on the next one. I had enough of these people coming in like this. But I think that the best strategy is to make a friend, right? And listen, if you think that there's a shot and you might be able to work with them in the future, I would still give them some referrals. Like, okay, hey, maybe now's not the right time. Like, I'm still going to divvy out a chunk of these to you. I'm going to give you our script and I'm going to show you how this works. And I want you to call them and go through this process and make yourself some money. And maybe once you got a taste of it, right, you'll want more, and then you can come on back, right, and we can work out a deal. And it just is. It's a really great process to be able to recruit in a make them come to you type of manner, right, where you're not chasing people around. I've been recruited, right, and it always is just kind of a weird, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like dating. Like, you ever had a clingy date, you know what I mean? They like want you and now you don't really want them, but you did before. They were all clingy. Like, that's how it is with recruiting. And so if you're chasing people like that, right, that's how they're going to feel about it. But if you're attracting them like this and you're attracting the right people, it's like a dog whistle, right? The people who need business, the people who know that you have business. And what are you doing? You're just giving them a little advertisement in your office, like, hey, I got tons of business and you should have tons of business too. Let's get some for you.
And I think that really is the beauty of having this all set up systematically, is you can really do this in a way that it's just like what you've done in your market with buyers and sellers, right? Mm-hmm. And that part, the part that's the most attractive to anybody that you're going to be able to bring on board, right? Because they're going to have a lot of pain around their customer acquisition process or lack thereof. And that being the problem. And I think too, just having the right expectations, like you got to try and make it as easy as possible, but you got to remove yourself. And this kind of moves on to the managing of it and being able to manage to metrics, because once you know that the process is supposed to convert at this much, you've got to hold them accountable to that, because it's costing you money, right? Right. You may not be paying them any amount of money, but you are paying them in terms of the leads that you're giving them, or appointments that you're getting them. So when you know that they've got to be responsible to a number, and you can't be emotionally attached to that, because like this is an industry that turns over at such a crazy rate that everyone that you hire will not be successful, right? That's probably the only thing I can tell you for sure.
That's for sure. But if you look at these mega teams, I mean, essentially they're piling on lots of agents, right? I mean, if you got 50 agents doing 10 transactions a piece annually, that's 500 transactions a year. It sounds crazy, but it's not crazy, especially when you have a process in place for doing this. One thing that I wanted to note was I would have the last agent train the next agent, because there's a tremendous power in going from learning to teaching, because now you're teaching, now you own it. And that person who is teaching, their performance will go through the roof because they were no longer the grasshopper, right? Now they were Mr. Miyagi. I mean, they're teaching this next rookie, right? And that's a really powerful component. I would highly recommend that. The danger there is the telephone game. So you want to have some, quality control strategies in place. Maybe be the last person that has them give you the presentations, right? So that you can sign off on them. Okay, great job. And obviously you want to give the person who trains them a little bone, right? Like I would always give them half the commission out of the first deal. The next thing that generally holds people back from doing this, Jake, as far as agents are concerned, is one, volume, right? Like I don't have enough volume to attract somebody. And then two, oh gosh, I'm losing my train of thought here. Well, I'll get to two. Let's talk about the volume one first. So, I was talking to an agent recently and I was like, you need to start, attracting agents. And she was like, well, we're not up this year. We're down, blah, 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 blah. I said, let me ask you, the brokerage that you're at now, when you moved to there, did you look up their volume? She said, no. I said, what about the one previous to that? No. I said, why do you think anybody's going to do that to you? Like, they don't care your volume. They only care what you can do for them. And so even if you're not there now, you will be, and they'll be able to think back like, dang, I watched this person. They had this conversation. I could have been on that, rocket ship, but I didn't do it, and so I find that to be interesting. Another one that holds people back is, the commission split. Like, well, why would they ever give me this much commission split, or what should the commission split be? I'm not telling you what to do there, but I'll tell you what I did. I always should have charged 50-50. And I felt like that was very, very fair. Now, as things kind of became a little bit more competitive, I went up to 75-25 on the front end, right? And I'd be like, hey, you can join the team, 75-25 split. Again, very fair, right? However, the lead that we send you is an extra 25%, right? And what would happen there is they would just always be focused on the leads that we would send. It would be very rare that they'd pop one off on their own, sphere or what have you. And when they did, like, good for them. Who cares, right? Most of the time, they'd be focused on the business that we were generating, and the math worked just fine doing it that way as well. And so I think that it depends on your market, but not only would I charge 50%, I'd also make them sign a what is the deal? Non-compete. Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, some people really balked at that. I remember I had a father. Golly, I slept in a tent last night, so if I'm off, that's what happened. Like, hashtag dad life, right? Like my son made me do it, and it was pretty horrific. I don't like to camp, right? I like nice hotels, air conditioning, but when you got an 8-year-old boy, like, you got to make those dreams come true. So anyway, it was a daughter-son team, and they're reading my ICA, my independent contractor agreement, with the non-compete. And I remember I like went to do something. They were in my lobby, and I could come back and they were just gone. So like, no conversation or nothing, right? And that was fine, because that's what it was designed to do. Like, look, if you're going to try to just come in here, steal all my business systems and proprietary knowledge, like, and go compete against me, get out of my office. So my point is, like, the bar was high, right? Like, the terms were a bit onerous, but the people that I would bring in, Jake, like, they would make 6 figures in their first year, no problem. And most of these people came from literally like waiting tables or Walmart, and they never made that kind of money, And so for them, that very, very good exchange of value on both sides. And we also had a lot of fun. A good real estate team kind of becomes like a family, especially if you have a culture in mind, which I really didn't. Like, our culture just kind of created itself. We're just a bunch of rowdy young partiers, you know what I mean? Like, with fancy cars, and that's just kind of how it went. But today I would be much more purposeful about that. What are some good some good books, Jake, on culture. If you were going to do this, if we were going to start a team today, like never really having experience with company culture.
I think it's called The Culture Code. Has been
Yes.
the best one that I've ever read.
Yep. The Energy Bus was great as well.
Energy Bus is a good book. I thought I had an original thought there because the University of Illinois basketball coach used to give that out at the beginning of every year, every season.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to bring this to the table. And I brought it to the office, and everybody was like, oh, we passed those out last year. It's like, oh, damn it.
Copy. Well, it was original for me, and I got it from you guys, and I found it to be a fantastic book. I got it for the whole team, you know what I mean? And that was literally how we created our set of core values, you know, shared things that we all subscribe to in order to create, company culture. I mean, we still go over them every day, right? At least one every morning in the huddle.
We do. I have a poster over here.
Yeah, it's a pretty badass poster. I don't know if you can slide it over. Doesn't matter. Anyway, so you want to do that. One of the things that you'll have to focus on is continued training with these agents. And, for me, that part is a lot of fun if you have a system in place that gives you the metrics, right? So you know where to train them. If they're getting enough leads, but they're not getting enough face-to-faces, they need script training. If they're getting enough face-to-faces, but they're not converting into a customer, then they need presentation training. If they're doing all that, but they're not converting them into commission, they need sales training. And that's literally the extent of it. A lot of times people make it much more confusing than it needs to be, but that's it. And so you might rewind that and listen to that part again, but that's how you keep these people trained. Go ahead.
The second part of this, you cannot and should never set the goal for them. You should understand what their goal is, because if you have it in your mind of like, ooh, they made 120,000, like what if we could double that next year? And they have no plan on working twice as hard. All you're going to do is disappoint yourself with somebody that's doing a good job with what they have, right? And they're completely content with that, which is okay. They are not you. They are on your team for a reason. You know what I mean?
We still make that mistake, Jake.
Like, dude, it's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah, that we're like, you need to be making this. And finally, one day he comes to my office and he's like, Mike, I really don't care to make that. I'm good with what I'm making. And he's like, I don't want to work that much. I'm like, you lazy bastard. Like, what's the matter with you? This is America, Jack. You need to take all those chips off the table. And then I thought about it for a minute. I was like, you know what? You can't improve on happiness. And the dude was happy. And so, like, who am I to
right.
You know what I mean? But that's a very valid point, Dave. Thanks for bringing that to the table. Yeah.
That just means you divvy that much of the lead flow to them that equals that amount. And you don't go past that. And then anything extra goes to other people. That's when you've reached capacity at one person. You need to move on to having a second person at that point. So, but you can't make a really good, because then the wheels start getting shaky, and then you burn them out when they were completely content and you were content.
And they were making you money. You know what I mean? And plus, if you did a good job on hiring the right person culture-wise, you should like them, right? Exactly. It should be somebody like you would go have a beer with after work. You know what I mean? Somebody that's cool. And I made that mistake often. I always set their goals like, you need to be making this. What? I mean, it's mind blowing, coming from Walmart, for example, or wherever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I had actually anybody come from Walmart. I think maybe they went to Walmart after the recession. I don't know. But there you go. So I think we've exhausted the amount of value we could add to this video today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you'd like some help with this, go to marketmakercall.com. Check out how we can generate you both buyer and seller leads, nurture those leads in a way that elevates your status and authority in the mind of those leads, and then deliver them automatically to your calendar, or preferably yours and your new buyer's agent's calendar. It is exclusive with one agent per zip code. It's marketmakercall.com. Go check it out. See if your area is available.
Go get you some. And as we always say at Market Maker, you are always just one pre-position appointment away.
Every day. Make it a great day.
Go get it.
Later.